Sid from Sid's Trains here, and today I'm going to be talking about how I acquired this collection that I've talked about before. So in previous videos on the channel, I've talked about a trip to St. Louis, Missouri I took a couple weeks ago. It's probably been more like a month ago at this point. However, I took the trip and I talked about my experiences at the St. Louis Transportation Museum, my experiences at Menards, but I have not described anything about the collection that I acquired from a family friend while I was in St. Louis, Missouri. And that was the reason why I went down to St. Louis, Missouri, was because there was this collection there that was owned by a family friend. And long story short, they were going to be moving very soon, and the gentleman who is the person that liked the trains and that was his one of his hobbies decided that the model trains were just not something he wanted to keep anymore because he had a lot of different hobbies. He liked woodworking, he had RC planes that were very large and extremely cool, and with them moving in the future and the trains just taking up so much space, he decided that the trains were just something that he did not want to keep and decided that he wanted to find a good home for them, a place where they would be enjoyed and well taken care of. He did not want them to go to a place where they would not be played with. He wanted the trains to be used and have a good time with them. When trains just sit on a wall, it's kind of like, why do you have them? I've personally been selling a couple trains recently because I don't use them. I would much rather see the trains be used than just sit on a wall and collect dust. And that was the same idea with him. Besides the fact that the trains just took up a ton of space, and he wanted to get out of the hobby because it was just a very big obligation to have and take care of. He just didn't want them to sit on a wall or sit in a box. He wants them to be used, to be played with, and to for someone to have a good time with them. And this was not the first time that he had ever contacted my family about model trains. Years and years ago, when I was much younger, he contacted my dad and said there were some track and some freight cars and some accessories that he wanted to get rid of. And I think I still have most of those cars and accessories, and even the track. The track was a tubular track with this rubber roadbed, and he decided he wanted to get rid of it at the time. So we acquired some stuff years ago, but now the same thing has occurred again. He has all this stuff. He does not have a need for it anymore. He loves the trains. He loves these trains a lot. There were times when we were taking the layout down that he got kind of emotional because when you build something and you see it come down, it's kind of emotional because you put a lot of time and effort and heart into it, and it's just sometimes sad to see. And that's kind of one of the reasons why this video has taken so long to make, is because I'm trying to be as respectful and gracious as possible when describing this whole situation. I am extremely grateful that he gave me this opportunity to acquire this collection. I do not take any of it for granted. I am so happy that I was able to acquire all of this. There is some amazing stuff from our family friend, and it was an amazing time just being with him, just talking about past things in life, the trains, other hobbies, and of course the future. You always just talk about like what's going to be happening soon or what are you doing soon. I had a very good time talking with him and his wife, and then the whole road trip experience was a really good time, and I enjoyed it all, and that is why I am making this videos, because I want to share all that. But again, I'm trying to be as respectful as possible, and I'm going to be going through everything that I acquired. I'm going to be showing you pictures of what I got, and not everything I've that I've acquired is going to stay with me. There is a possibility that things will be sold, likely lots of the track or some of the accessories and things, but for the most part, lots of it will stay with me as it means a lot to our family friend, and I would really love to take care of the stuff for him, enjoy it, and then send him photos and videos of his trains running on my layout or his accessories on my layout, and just show him that someone is enjoying his old trains, and I think that will make him really happy. So, with all of that out of the way, I'm going to be saying this probably many times during this video. If our family friend is watching, and for any of you just wondering, thank you for providing me this opportunity to acquire the collection, and I am super grateful that I was able to acquire it. And let's just get into showing off all the trains. And if I keep saying I'm grateful or I'm happy or I'm just thankful, whatever it is, I just keep saying the same thing over and over because while I'm trying to be while I'm trying to present things well, I'm just being as clear and of course respectful as possible, and I'm just super grateful. So I keep saying thank you and I'm grateful, and that's all I can really say is because the stuff I acquired is some really amazing stuff, and that's all I can say is just I'm so happy that I'm able to have this stuff now, and I was glad I was able to take it off his hands, make him feel like it's going to a good place, and of course now he does not have to deal with all the trains when the time comes when they possibly have to move, and of course he has to probably move all his other hobbies as well. So I'm of course just grateful, and let's just get into the video and the story of dismantling his old layout and me packing up his old collection. So starting out, let me just talk about the layout that he had and just kind of the orientation, the layout of the layout, the shape, what kind of layout it was. Judging by the photos, it might be easy for some of you, but if you can't already tell, this was a shelf layout. It was built around the edges of a room in the basement of his house. There were two main long straightaways, of course corners with scenery and curves in them, and then each end of the room that had the connecting parts. There wasn't really much there. It was just either a bridge or something like that. But the main scenery or detailed parts were the two long straightaway sides and the corners in the back. So starting out, there was this main section of the table where he had all of his switches, his passing sidings, and his yard in the corner. As you can see, everything is done using Lionel Tubular Track and 072 switches. There's also some smaller radius curves on the upper loop of the layout that was a kind of dog bone style loop that went around the edge of part of the room. And this tubular track is really nice. If I wasn't going for a more scale look on my layout, I would take all of this track and use it on my layout. The tubular track is fantastic stuff. It is trouble-free, it always works, and it's super quiet. And this stuff is even more quiet because it has this rubber roadbed on it, and that absorbs a lot of sound and allows for the trains to be very quiet when they're running. But I've already constructed my layout and I'm using the fast track, so I won't be doing that. But that's just showing how much I love and care for the fast track, for the O gauge track. Sorry, and the tubular track is just so nice, and there was a ton of it, tons of extra pieces, tons of switches. Almost all the switches were the newer style ones with the LED lamplight, which is even more amazing. And they all have their boxes, they have their controllers, and they're all just super high quality switches, and the track is just fantastic. I just love the track. I just don't use it on my layout because I've constructed and built my layout in a different way. So that was kind of the track setup of the layout. And then on the straightaway, you see all these switches and passing sidings, tons of freight cars. He had some accessories like a water tower, and a standing water tower, the tall one with the tower at the top, and a bunch of other accessories. He also had a MTH signal bridge, an MTH engine shed, and then he had lots of custom built wood supports to hold up his upper level, which was very cool. And you got to see those around the yard area and some of the other parts of the layout. And then when you move to the other side of the room, where there's another long straightaway, he had this more detailed section with these really cool telephone poles with the wires running to each. He then had the track ballasted all around it. And then he had these tunnel portals all along the wall, which might seem odd, but it actually looked really cool, looked really good, and just created this really cool scene for everything. And I really liked how the trains looked when they were sitting there. Uh, just to let you all know, I did not run anything when I was dismantling the layout or before I dismantled the layout, because there was the layout had not been used in a long time, and there was some trains shorting out, and I just didn't want to have to troubleshoot that. We just wanted to get the layout down and then enjoy our time down there. But back to the trains, yeah, this other straightaway was very, very cool. Definitely a good detailed scenic part of the layout. In this other corner is a not a mountainous area, but he had the elevated track there with all the wood supports, tons of trees, and it kind of looked like an engine was going into a mountain or into this covered area, which was very cool looking. And the elevated section here was the other end of a dog bone. It was not shaped like a dog bone, however, it's just a straight piece of track with two loops at the end with a switch, which is why I call it a dog bone style upper loop. In the other corner, there were building flats. He had a town scene that he made with building flats, which looked really cool, and there were some cars sitting there, and overall just looked really good. And there were tons of trees on this layout. I don't know if you probably saw the trees in the other corner of the layout, but there were lots and lots of trees in other boxes that weren't even on the layout. So I now have another good supply of trees. I have a lot of trees sitting under my layout from my old layout, but now I have even more. So that's nice because trees are pretty expensive. But yeah, he had lots of supplies and scenic supplies for the layout that he didn't use, but the layout did look really good in the spots that it was scenic. And that's kind of the main layout of the layout. That's the orientation of all the tracks and how it was set up. And like I said before, each end where the two long sides were connected, there wasn't really much there. It was just track connecting each side of the room. So that's the main design of the table. And one other thing to add before we move on to the items and then the dismantling of the table was the table was really well built. It was this nice stained wood, a very good construction underneath, good leg support, and some of it was even just supported by the walls only with L brackets. So a very nice layout, very well built. So with all of that out of the way, let's move on to the items in the collection itself. So moving on to the items or the pieces in the collection, the rolling stock, the accessories, and all the engines, let's just get right into it. I'm going to start out with his favorite engine that he had and that he loved to run, and that is his Lionel Westside Lumber Shay. He loved the Shay and all the gear mechanisms on the side and how it was just such a different kind of engine. Of course, they also sound different. They have very high-pitched whistles. The chuffing is very fast since the pistons are having to move a lot faster than on a normal steam engine. So he just loved the way this engine looked, and then he even had cars for it. He had a little disconnect car, caboose, tons of skeleton lumber cars, and then just flat cars with logs. And they all looked really good behind the Shay. And I think this picture really just says it all. They look really good. I love the wood or the simulated or the real wood on top of these cars, and overall they just look really really good, and I think I'm going to have a good time with them. The next item was from one of his favorite railroads and was kind of the creme de la creme of the collection in my mind, because um, when I look at a collection, I look around and you might see trains that are more lower end or just not as out of the ordinary. But there was one item that was very unique and very different in his collection, and that was this right here. This is a Lionel Union Pacific FEF number 8444. And you don't see these very often, and the fact that he had one was just amazing. I really like this engine. You guys have been seeing it in my videos and my live streams that I've done since I took this trip, and it's just a really nice engine. In this picture right here, you can see that one of the elephant ears or smoke deflectors on the front was bent inward. But I have since then fixed that, and here's a picture of the fixed smoke deflector. So moving on, the next engine and final engine that he had was a Lionel semi-scale TMCC Pacific. It's very similar to a semi-scale Hudson. Still a very nice engine. I love the Santa Fe paint scheme, and then he even had Madison passenger cars for it. It's, I believe, a 7-car set of Madison cars. They all have interiors and people in them, which is very nice. A very good looking set, and definitely something that I think I will be enjoying. I have not taken these cars or the engine out of the box. I haven't taken everything out of their boxes since I packed them up when we left his house, and they're just sitting under my table right now. I probably will plan to do videos on me opening them in the future. Moving on to the accessories and all the rolling stock. Accessory wise, he had the MTH single stall engine shed, which was a very nice piece. It sat in his kind of engine yard over in the corner. He had an MTH Pennsylvania Railroad style signal bridge, which I actually have sitting on my layout right now over my 2 main lines, and I think I will be using that on my layout because it just looks so good. And I'll probably get the additional signal heads for it. He also had a bunch of building flats, as I said before. He had a Lionel operating water tower, a Lionel template style floodlight tower, and then a Lionel standing water tower, the one where it's just the structure with the water tower on top, and then even the little blinking light as well. It wasn't operating, it just sits there. But still a very nice accessory, and they were all nice pieces, and I definitely like the look of all of them. Moving on to rolling stock, there was just a lot of different pieces of rolling stock, mainly meaning freight cars. There were coal cars, there were tons of reefers, box cars, tank cars, flat cars, cabooses. There's just a bit of everything, and I'm not going to go through each individual item because that would just take a super long time for lots of little items that aren't super significant in the scheme of things. But overall, all the pieces were very nice, and I'm definitely glad that I now own them. And I even have some of them sitting on my layout right now, mainly the box cars and the reefers, as I really like the look of them behind my now FEF Northern. And of course, they also look good with any other train I'm running, a Big Boy, a Mohawk, whatever it is. They look good with all of those kind of engines. And of course, as I said before, or I've said before actually in different videos as well, I plan to hopefully unbox some of this stuff in different videos because I just haven't had the time to unbox everything, and there's just so much. So I'll definitely unbox more trains and the freight cars in other videos. But that was the main highlights of the rolling stock and the accessories I got. So now let's just move on to the dismantling and packing up of the collection. So moving on to the dismantling and packing up of the collection, I'm just going to tell you the general idea of what we did, and then just let the slideshow roll and let you see all the whole process going down. So we just literally went in there, took the trains off the layout, put them in their boxes, made sure they were in their boxes the right way, and then we took the track off the layout, unscrewed anything that needed to be unscrewed from the tabletop. So then we just had a bare tabletop. Then from there, we dismantled the table. We did not keep the table. They kept some of the wood, and then we disposed of some of the wood. But we took everything else, the track, the trains, everything. We took it all, and we packed it up in some other boxes as well for anything that didn't have boxes, like the trees, some of the accessories, the building flats, all that kind of stuff, or some of the freight cars that didn't have boxes either. So we just packed everything up as good as we could and took it all down to the point where they just had their TV room back. That originally was their TV room, but they had, our family friend had put the layout in there, so there was still a TV in there, but it wasn't as much of a TV room as it was more a man cave. But it's now to the point where it's a TV room again with their couch and their TV in there. So that was kind of the idea of it. And now I'm just going to let the slideshow roll. However, before I just close out the video with the slideshow, I would like to thank my family friend once again and his wife for allowing me to acquire the collection, for allowing us to come down there, hang with them, and have such a good time. I'm enjoying the trains a lot. I couldn't have asked for a better trip, a better collection. It's an amazing collection, lots of great stuff, and I just cannot tell you enough how thankful I am, how grateful I am for you allowing me to acquire the collection, and for me to be the one that continues to enjoy these trains that you used to have. So that's all I have. I'm going to let the slideshow roll, and as always, like, subscribe, and click the bell for notifications. Comment below and tell others about the channel. I'm Sid, and I'll see you next time.